Hi, Laura.
Hi.
It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Where were you wanting to start today?
Well, I guess I had something happen to me last week. My sister, the one who I never speak to, she's the one that's angry at my parents. I tried to make a coffee date with her, and I drove all the way down like half an hour to where she says she lives, and then waited an hour at a Starbucks, and then she didn't show up.
Oh no,
Yeah,
that sounds really sad.
yeah.
How did that make you feel in the moment?
Honestly, I was really pissed. Like, royally pissed. Like, did not understand why she didn't even call. Like, it would have been fine if she canceled. And I was just like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I'm your sister.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just cancel? So
That sounds really frustrating. That you really put in effort and you drove all the way to where she wanted to meet, and then you just were kind of let down. Does that sound right?
yeah, I definitely think letdown was a big thing because like I wouldn't have been upset at all if she had just canceled. But it was the like not calling me at all, not letting me know anything.
So, last week we kind of talked about your overall situation, and so I'm definitely going to touch back on those pieces, but we're also going to integrate what you just told me into there. Okay. So, with your sister contacting you recently after quite a bit of time of nothing, just silence, correct? How does that make you feel now?
I mean, after 6 months of like nothing, I was really excited, and I was really looking forward to talking to her and hanging out with her because like I didn't do anything wrong. She's not my parents, and so it was upsetting to be like stood up.
Yeah.
Even though I was like so excited to see her, and I felt like she was so excited to see me, and so yeah.
Can you tell me more about that excitement?
Yeah. Her and I have always been like really bantery and really like back and forth, playfully, not really like angry at each other. Like obviously sisters fight, but like I was really excited to get back into it and like hang out with her again. And she's like 6 years older than me, but we still have a really good connection. And so it was just, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you were really anticipating the moment that you would see your sister again.
Yeah.
And so, from what you just told me a minute ago, like you were really let down.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds really sad.
Okay.
Yeah. So have you told anybody about this interaction that was supposed to happen?
Yeah, I told my mom and my dad, and then I haven't told my other sister yet. But my mom and my dad felt for me. Like they were really upset because they want to separate my relationship with my sister with like their argument that they have, and so they were really looking forward to me seeing her, even though that they couldn't.
So can you kind of tell me a little bit more about what you just said about separating you from your sister? Am I getting that right?
Sort of. So it's more like since Rianne is her name, since Rianne isn't like wanting to be around my parents anymore, I feel like she kind of looped me in with that and isn't talking to me either. But my parents want like a different relationship for me with her. So even though my parents can't see her and like they're having an argument, my parents don't want that for me and really want me to still like keep the relationship going with my sister.
Okay.
So.
And how does that make you feel when your parents are kind of getting into your situation with your sister?
I mean, they're supportive, and so that makes me feel really good. That makes me feel like less of like I guess a burden on her because they know I didn't do anything to make her upset, and I think it upsets them as well that she's kind of treating me poorly, even though I didn't do anything.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they had some feelings about her kind of standing you up.
Yeah, I think they were really upset. They tried not to show it. They tried to be really empathetic, which was good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're probably like pissed as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially because when I came home, I was like bawling yet screaming. Like
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I'm so sorry. And you haven't told Sarah about this?
I haven't told Sarah just because I haven't had the chance to call her. She has been really busy with work, and so every time I call, I get voicemail, and so we've been like back and forth, like phone calling.
Mm-hmm.
So, which really upsets me because I miss her, and it kind of makes me feel alone without one sister and then without the other.
Mm-hmm. It kind of wraps back around to the whole you feeling lonely without your sisters in the house.
Yeah.
And how has that feeling been going for you lately? Like, has it gotten better, worse, neutral?
I would say pretty neutral, just because, I don't know, like I'm still kind of like doing the same things. Like since we last talked, I realized that I should really make an effort to like talk to my friends more and be more aware of them, and so that's been going better. But still, when I get home, I'm like, okay, sit here by myself, watch Netflix, whatever. So.
Have there been some sort of like communications with your friends about the situation of you being lonely, or have they made some efforts here and there?
They've kind of remained the same, where they're like, yeah, I get it, you miss them. But I don't know, it kind of makes me feel better that we're not really talking about it. I feel like it puts me in a position to where I can like try and move on. Not like with my life, because I still have my sisters in my life, but like move on throughout the day, I guess, and like try and focus on things that are around me in the present. So that's really nice.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And like not talking about it makes you feel better?
Yeah, when I'm like with my friends and they don't want to talk about it, like I can tell it kind of like, I don't know, pushes me to not like push it down emotionally, because I can still feel it and I still want to talk about it, but like it allows me to practice moving forward, you know what I mean? So that also, I feel like can be also bad, just because then when I get home I like dump it out, you know, like by myself. But
and what are some of the feelings that you have when you're by yourself?
just lonely, and like I get to thinking about Rhiannon, like how she blew me off this last week, and I don't know, that kind of makes me feel like abandoned.
What does abandonment feel like for you?
Since I'm the baby, I guess it would just be like feeling alone and feeling like I have no one to talk to, even though they were there for my whole life, and like them wanting to move away, not from me, but from home, which I'm a part of. So I don't know, that kind of stuff.
From what you just said, it sounds to me like you kind of feel like your sisters have left you on purpose. Like, does that sound correct or no?
Definitely Rhiannon. I think that she knew exactly what she was doing. Sarah, however, she's off to college. I want her to succeed, and she's not like, I don't know, letting me go like Rhiannon is. So definitely a different relationship.
You mentioned how you hadn't talked to Sarah about it yet. The interaction with Rhiannon. Rhiannon. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
And like I was just thinking about the relationship between both of your other sisters. Like, how does Sarah feel about her?
I think they have a pretty good relationship still, because Rhiannon left just before Sarah went to college, and so Rhiannon was like, "Oh yeah, let's say goodbye. Like, I'll meet you for lunch, and like, I'll send you off." And then Sarah has like a really positive experience with that, and then I come over and I say, "Oh, I want to get lunch with you, Rhiannon," and then she blows me off, and so I don't think Sarah and Rhiannon have the same kind of relationship that I do with her now. Just because she acted so differently.
And I mean, of course, you wouldn't know exactly what Sarah is thinking, but it's just kind of good to have that insight, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about how your home life has been since the interaction with Rian?
The most recent one, the one where she blew me off.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fine. I have been trying not to think about it, but then every time I think about it, I get really pissed and angry, and I just like go in my room and shut the door.
Mm-hmm.
Which my parents have been really understanding about. Otherwise, it's been pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And how about like sleeping, school, nutrition?
Yeah.
They changed.
My sleep pattern, I think, is pretty normal. School has been weird just because it's like on my mind a lot, and I'm always want to like call Sarah, or I always want to like talk to Rian, but I can't talk to Rian. So when I call Sarah, she doesn't answer because she's at work.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm just really distracted in my head during the day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have a lot of friends in my classes, so that helps me kind of get distracted from the distraction.
Mm-hmm. And kind of sounds to me like you welcome these distractions. Is that true?
Yeah. I'm not sure I like prefer them over like focusing on school and stuff like that, just because it is probably detrimental. But I definitely think about them, and I like let them in my brain.
And when you let them into your brain, like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Like, what are your feelings around them? Like the thoughts that you have?
I think that they're probably a bad thing. Like I don't feel good when I think about being abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like thinking it through and like thinking through all the steps and stuff like that makes me feel better, just because going through all the steps, like I don't blame myself. I think I blame Rihanna a lot because she's the one doing all this like effed up crap, and like I know that that's not my fault, even though it makes me feel really upset. And so thinking about it, I feel like better about myself, even though I'm still thinking about the fact.
Do you often compare yourself with Rianne? Or is it just kind of in this one situation?
I think just the one situation, because her and I are not very similar. She's very, very tomboyish, and I am not. And I feel like that like baseline of the tomboy versus girly girl thing like has a lot of room to grow, and so just based off of that, we don't really have a lot of interests in common, which is fine because as we were growing up, we still got along really well. We still did a lot of stuff together. It was just that her and I have really different interests. So.
And I heard you mention before in our last session, one thing that really stood out to me was her mentioning kind of often, not too often, that you guys were half siblings. And she kind of brought that up.
Yeah. Sort of throughout the childhood, like when we would have fights, she's like, "Oh, it's okay because I'm only your half sister." But like, she never said that when we were getting along ever, because she knew it was like irrelevant. But she liked to bring it up when we were arguing.
So she kind of used it as some sort of like, I'm not sure about the word.
I think it was a lot of manipulation for sure.
Yes. That might have been the word that I used. But can you tell me more about what you think about that word, manipulation, and your sister?
Yeah. I think the word in general kind of means like act a certain way so that people will like feel bad for you and like do things for you, or like unintentionally, I guess maybe you could be manipulative too. But I think when Rianne does it, it's very intentional, and she like keeps you like on her little hook and wants you to think about her and wants you to like strive to be around her, I guess, you know? So she just like keeps you there for her own pleasure, even though it's harming you. Like, I think that's how she's manipulative.
So, based off of what you just said, it kind like being on a hook, it kind of reminds me of the situation where she had called you and set up a coffee date and then she wasn't there.
Yeah.
Would you say that's kind of similar to be put, sorry, to be like put on a hook, like her hook?
Yeah, I think so a lot because, like, she riled me up, she got me excited for it, and then she didn't even show, she didn't call. And so I feel like that, like, made me want to see her even more because I was like, why are you doing this? Like, I just want to see you. And, and then she didn't show. So.
And has this ever really happened before? Are there any other times where she's kind of done the same thing to you?
Not that I can remember, but I mean, we're not like super old, you know, like she's only like, she's gotta be 20.
That's fair.
So, and I'm 16, so not that I can remember.
No major instances that stand out?
No. Especially because in the past it's always been like, she picks me up from school, or she and I go get ice cream, but because we're both at home, so it's easy to like meet up at home. You know what I mean? So.
All right. I'm trying to let the silence flow. I can't. And have your parents ever kind of seen this manipulative side of Brienne, or that you know of?
I think so. I think that they definitely saw it as like a kid, and like the more time goes between like the really bad interaction where she left home and now, they like talk about it a lot, where she never really got along with my dad because it wasn't her dad, and like that, not knowing it wasn't her dad, just like the natural interaction between them was really like angry, I guess. And so I think that they see a lot of manipulation in her, for sure.
Did that ever cause any conflict in your home?
Yeah, she was definitely the one to fight more with my parents, but it was never like, I hate you as people. It was like, oh, why aren't you gonna let me out past 10? Like that type of thing. And so I never really thought anything big of it, but she's definitely the more feisty one, for sure.
Did you ever witness any of these interactions where things kind of escalated?
Yeah, definitely. She liked to argue a lot with my parents, and this one time she argued really, really badly with my sister, and they were just like in the kitchen screaming at each other when I was really young. And so that was just not traumatizing, but just like really freaked me out as a kid, I think, and almost, I don't know, put in perspective like who she was, I guess, like made me see her as this feisty person. So
how did that make you feel about your sister?
I guess in the moment I never thought about it, but like talking about it now, I guess it made me feel like she was on the bad end of the spectrum, I guess, and so that might have like dictated how I saw her and interacted with her.
And you mentioned like the bad end of the spectrum. Like, what does that exactly mean to you?
Like good versus bad people, I guess. And so her being really feisty and like arguing a lot and trying to pick fights with my sister, I guess, just puts her on like the further end of like being a bad person, you know what I mean? Not that she's a bad person per se, but like that really contributes to the way that I see her.
Often personas like that, like good or bad, can be the first thing that a person sees in another. Like, I get why you would make that judgment. Like many people do. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about that, actually?
I think me like judging her as that type of person so young, like, man, that interaction where she was screaming with Sarah was probably, I don't know, I was probably 8 or 9, and so pretty young, and I guess that like furthered my judgment throughout my life and like assuming the bad in her. Definitely. so I guess when she left, it was kind of like, oh, that's just Rianne, and didn't think anything of it. And now that like more things have been happening, I don't know. It's already there in my brain that she would have done that, even though I'm still like shocked and appalled.
Yeah.
So
Is it safe to assume that you, as a child, saw her as someone like that was relatively like a good person, but over time, it's kind of just went to the other direction, kind of switched?
yeah, I think so very much.
Yeah. And then just this last interaction with Brienne, it's kind of been like the cherry on top.
Yeah, like the tipping point right over the edge. She just like proved herself to be that type of person, which sucks because she could so not be that person if she wanted to, because she's got very good people skills and is very smart, and just can't believe that she can be like that.
I heard you use the word tipping point. Can you like expand on that? Tell me what your tipping point is.
Yeah, I think with the specific relationship with Rianne, like I was able to keep up with it and like forgive and just kind of like brush it off and be like, okay, that's okay, we're fine. And then after 6 months and then me trying to see her and she didn't show up, it was like, okay, fine. I won't be there then. I won't be like trying to get your attention. And so I feel like the tipping point would be like starting to care less about like whether she's there or not, because she doesn't want me there, obviously. And so why should I put in my effort to see her either? Yeah.
So how do you feel now about your sister in like basic terms?
Basic terms, probably like, I don't know, I feel angry with her and I feel almost disgusted that she is being so rude to family.
And by you like expressing these feelings about your sister, just like telling me about that, how does that make you feel? Like to say the words out loud.
I feel a lot better. I feel like I know a lot more about like how I'm feeling than I did before I walked in that door. And it's just like really relieving to be able to say it out loud and to have someone to like kind of run through my thoughts with me. So it feels really good.
So you feel comfortable in this setting?
I really do.
That's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So now, where would you like to go from here? Are there any major topics that stand out to you?
Not major topics. I feel like the reason I'm here, not just to feel good, would be like acceptance of my sister's like behavior and stuff like that. And so just talking about it feels really good, but I would like to actually like move on with the circumstances and stuff like that. I just don't feel like I'm ready to like actually let go of her yet, but I guess that's like a goal of mine.
Yes, and I think we talked about that last week and when we discussed your potential goals.
Yeah.
Just to like find acceptance and manage your time with your friends and family. We will eventually hit all those, check all those boxes, but at the moment, will you tell me more about how your friends and boyfriend have been taking the situation?
Friends are fine. They're kind of my escape right now because, like I said, I don't really have to talk about it in front of them, which is like a good relief and like just a way to keep going in my day. My boyfriend has not really been very present lately, and I'm kind of like backing away from him a little bit just because, I don't know, he's very different than I am, and like he smokes a lot of weed, and I don't particularly like weed at all. And I kind of feel like since Rianne smokes a lot as well, that I kind of like associate those two together, and so I'm like, oh, I don't really want to be with you if you smoke weed, even though like that doesn't contribute to who he is as a person, you know. So I'm just kind of backing away a little bit from him,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see. So yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, he's a really good person, and he and I have been friends for a really long time, which I think is like my dynamic. Like I date friends because they're easy to get along with, and I enjoy them, and like seeing where it goes is like not an issue because I know that we'll be friends afterwards because that's like really easy for me to do, to just kind of like put the past away and like be friends again. And for some reason, I've never come across someone who's like, I don't do that. You know, like I've always been friends with the people that I have previously dated. And so I guess saying that, I'm like not worried if him and I don't work out. Because he's a good person and he's a good friend, and I know that if we do break up, it's like no biggie, and we can just go back to being friends, and it'll be fine.
So you don't really feel like if you lose him as a boyfriend, then you will lose him as a friend, like lose an ally.
Yeah. I know that he still cares about me, whether we like are compatible in that way or not. So that's really nice.
Not to change the subject too quickly, but I did hear you mention in your last sentence or two that you have an easy time like becoming friends with someone after like there's a fallout or something like that. So does that kind of relate back to why it's hard to accept what your sister has done? That she's like hurt you, but there's no really bounce back to being friends again.
Yeah, I think that is an awesome point I never thought about because, like, all my life it's been easy to like be friends with someone whether I know them very well, whether I don't, or like if we just got in a fight, I'm like, okay, sorry, let's be friends again because that's cool. And Rianne like having this big fallout, I guess it is like a big shock to me that like she is that one person that's like, no, I don't want to be friends with you. And so that being like the first time or first few times in my life that that's ever happened, I guess is a real big shock and like isn't what I'm normally used to. And so I guess that could take a big toll too.
And if I am bouncing around too much, just let me know. Like if you want to go back to your boyfriend, we totally can.
No,
I was just making okay, that's fine. I was just wanting to make that connection really quick before I like forgot about it. But
yeah, I hadn't even thought about that before, so that was like eye opener.
So that's good to hear.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, of course. So to me, it sounds like you're feeling like this is a brand new situation where like something you've known with your friends or family, it isn't just happening like it naturally does anymore.
Like mending bonds like after the arguments and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it comes really naturally, especially because the arguments are never really like huge. And if they are huge, then like we're not friends because we don't like I don't want whoever it is to be like struggling in a friendship, you know, because they don't deserve that either. But usually it's like really easy to bounce back, really natural.
And with the word bounce back, can you kind of unpackage like what you feel?
Yeah. Bounce back, like kind of let go and forgive, I guess, and kind of feel like the argument has made your friendship stronger and being like, oh, I feel confident enough in our friendship that I can tell you what I feel and we can argue, but still like want to be friends, still want to like hang out with each other, even though we might not agree on everything.
It kind of sounds like you're used to having friendships that are really all about communication and understanding. So, like with this new situation, it's just probably a little different than what you're used to.
I would definitely say so.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. With my friendships, it's been like open communication, and like if they don't communicate, like that's fine. I'm okay with that because that's not like if that's not who they are, that's fine. And they communicated that to me that like I don't really want to talk about that. And I think that goes back to my family being really open and honest. And so having like that foundation of like my family is honest, and then having Rianne just like skate away from that has been like a really big shock, and I feel like her not actually communicating with me or anyone really, because she doesn't talk to anyone except for Sarah. Is like, where do you get that? Like, our family has never been like that, and so, but I guess friends have a lot of impact too. Rand's friends, I guess. I haven't seen a lot of her friends. She didn't grow up with too many. But when she did, they were really good friends, and so I'm still kind of like, where did you get that? You know, so.
It sounds like, yes, it's definitely something you're used to, but you're not receiving a lot of it at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. Not from her, at least. That kind of makes me feel like, I don't know, not like our relationship has been like bad the whole time, but like sometimes it makes me feel like she was like faking it, you know, even though she might have just like flipped the switch and was like, I'm not gonna tell you anything anymore, which really sucks. But
so I actually never set the timer.
no,
I was watched the entire